Hi guys, it's Crystal. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to walk you through this keto PSMF friendly log cake I decided to make for my husband's birthday. His birthday was on the 13th. I've never made like a Yule log type cake before. I saw Maria Emmerich post one a few weeks back on her page, so I thought I would try. I decided to use something similar to my keto cake recipe that I had posted earlier in the summer, with a few modifications, basically leaving out the Simply Delish pudding. I started by separating 3 eggs from their yolks and whites. I mixed the whites directly into my mixing bowl and left the yolks off to the side in a separate bowl. I added 1 cup of egg whites to the mixing bowl and a teaspoon of cream of tartar. And then I started to mix my dry ingredients in a separate bowl. I used 3 level tablespoons of egg white protein powder, and then I added 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder, 1 teaspoon of nutritional yeast, 1 tablespoon of coconut flour, and a half a teaspoon of xanthan gum. I used 3 tablespoons of confectioner swerve. And then to my egg yolks, I added a splash of chocolate extract and a splash of vanilla extract. I did add a dash of salt to my dry ingredients and gave the dry ingredients a mix. I went on to start whipping my egg whites. Now this video is sped up. All in all, it took me on high about 6 minutes to get nice firm peaks whipping up by hand. I added part of the dry mixture into the mixture with my fork. I didn't want to just delve right in with my handheld mixer because the mixing bowl was getting already quite full and I didn't want cocoa powder going everywhere. So once I incorporated most of the dry ingredients to the mixture, I added the rest. I somehow still managed to make a lovely little mess on my board there, but that is okay. Once the dry ingredients were worked in, I added my egg yolks one at a time until they were well incorporated. And then, as always, just to make sure everything was mixed in, I did use a spatula at the end because I always seem to have some whites at the bottom. You can see it's kind of white there. So just made sure that was all mixed in. Because I wasn't making a traditional cake with the mixture, I wasn't worried about over mixing it. I was spreading it out on a baking tray, so again, wasn't too worried. So this was my first attempt at a log cake. I wasn't quite thinking ahead too much here at this part because I spread my mixture on a lined baking tray. I really like using these liners because the cake doesn't stick to the tray. I probably, in hindsight though, should have used parchment paper because when I got to the rolling process, that would have made it easier. So I didn't plan that part out thoroughly, but because I was just winging it and not following a recipe per se, it still worked. I put it into my preheated oven of 325 degrees Fahrenheit for 12 minutes. My oven does run hot. That's why it did 12 minutes versus 15. And here you can see it was looking good. So I decided to pull it. Seeing how I had never made this type of cake before either, I thought I'd lay out cellophane versus parchment paper, thinking it would roll and hold its shape better while it was in the fridge cooling overnight. Again, I probably should have used parchment paper and a dishcloth, but it did transfer to the cellophane good, and then I just went on to roll it. It rolled really nicely and didn't seem to squish too much. So all in all, it held good. I was not going to be frosting the cake the night before. I was just trying to make the cake and the frosting, and then I was gonna pull it all together the next day after it had cooled and set. So that is it there. I decided to add another piece of cellophane lengthwise to cover the ends, just to make sure it wouldn't dry out or have any air get inside. So once that was wrapped up, I went on to make my frosting. Again, I was chilling the frosting overnight too. So I had half a cup of softened light cream cheese that I added to my mixing bowl. And then I added 3 tablespoons of confectioner swerve. I used my handheld mixer to make sure, or not to make sure, to start blending it up. I wanted it well incorporated before adding my heavy cream. So once it was thoroughly mixed together good, I went on to add a half a cup of heavy cream. I did add 2 more tablespoons of confectioner swerve, and then I added 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder. I added a splash of chocolate extract and a splash of vanilla extract. I added about a half a teaspoon of xanthan gum, which was probably a little bit too much. I probably could have just used a pinch and that would have been perfect, because after I got to mixing a bit, it was quite thick. So I decided to add a splash more of heavy cream. I used just under a quarter cup. Again, if I only used a pinch of xanthan gum, I probably wouldn't need more cream, but went on to mix that until it was good, light, and fluffy. Of course, I just had to mix the sides in as well, make sure nothing was missed. But you can see it's whipped together quite nicely. It's nice, light, and fluffy. So I placed the cake and the whipped topping in the fridge overnight to cool. And when it was time to put the cake together the next day, I had pulled it from the fridge. So in my fridge, I had a pre-made egg pudding from my personal stash that I decided to use as the filling. So if you did not have egg pudding in your fridge, you could totally use the whipped filling for your center as well, or even another keto pudding maybe, or even like just a plain whipped topping in the filling and then do the chocolate filling on the outside. The possibilities are endless. I just wanted to use the chocolate egg pudding that I had, which worked out great. So the cellophane was a bit sticky here. You can see a little bit stuck there. So again, maybe the parchment paper would have worked better, but I'll note for next time. Other than that, it did roll out okay, except towards the beginning when the roller was a bit tighter, I kind of broke the cake there. But it's okay. It was able to be salvaged. I went on to smear the egg pudding in the center of the cake. Smeared a good coat, or layer I should say, in the center. I had to pry open the beginning there because it was a bit tight, and just kind of filled it with the pudding as well. So again, if you have pudding, you could totally use your whipped frosting or a vanilla frosting, or maybe even a cream cheese frosting. That would be really good too. Actually, after making this, I think I want to try like a cinnamon bun version log cake. I think that would be delicious. But once the pudding was thoroughly spread out and added all evenly, I went on to roll it back together. It did roll back together well for me. You can't tell the piece had broke off too bad, so it worked out okay. I added it to a platter and then I pulled out the whipped topping. I did add some whipped topping to the bottom of the cake before I went and added it to the tops and sides. So I definitely am not the greatest at cake decorating. It's definitely not my strong suit. I totally need to take a cake decorating class or something like that. I try, but definitely not the best, not the worst. It was pretty enough, I suppose, but could be better. But there is a close-up view of the cake. I had a ton of whipped topping still left in my bowl, so I added some to a bag and thought I would get all creative and pipe some out through on the ends, which it didn't really work as good as I was hoping because the whipped topping was quite fluffy and soft. It didn't hold its shape as well as I thought it would. But threw in some strawberries on top, trying to add some color and make it look fancier. I don't know if I accomplished that, but the pop of color was nice. I had no holly leaves or anything like that and didn't want it too Christmassy either, seeing as it was a birthday cake. I added some strawberries to the side. Again, not the Decorator of the Year award, but it was good, and I wasn't too disappointed. Like, I was happy with how it turned out. I always have a different envision in my mind, though. When I set out to decorate something, it never turns out as good as I envision in my head, but it was tasty. It was on to candles. We only had 4 candles on the cake, not 45. But yeah, I did get some footage cutting into the cake, not the best footage. Everyone was eager to dig in, but there is a close-up view. Definitely turned out great. I definitely will be making it again. And again, I want to try the cinnamon bun version. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video and recipe. If you do try it, let me know. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell and all that good stuff. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.